On the right, the face, like I said, you're going to want to learn this one. With a good, right now, he's currently in the top 5 of the Season 2 standings off that semifinal invitational appearance.
He's cleaned up his beard a little bit since then. He's looking sharp.
Yeah, a win here this weekend would put him right to the top of the standings.
Oh, yeah.
We are underway. Maine has won the diagonals on the play. Turn 1, Birds of Paradise off an overgrown 2.
The ideal start for any of these decks.
Yeah, I would think so, especially against something like Death and Taxes that's trying to really go at your mana. And it seems, they don't kill your creatures, right? The only removal spells are Path to Exile.
Yeah, so on mana creatures, that's not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, Andy Kline, not 12 planes, he's playing 12 snow-covered planes.
So on the topic of ideal starts, Kline, no Aether Vial. So right, at this stage in the game, things are going more Maine's way.
Boy, I'll say when I see some basic planes go across the table for me, in my head, I'm doing a dance.
I'm usually cringing because I know I'm going to lose to this basic planes deck.
I suppose Delver of Secrets doesn't like these. In Legacy, this is a matchup you don't really like.
This is a bad matchup in Legacy. I think in Modern, just by the fact that my deck has a bunch of Terminates, the matchup is much better.
It's still losable, right?
It's losable, you're not wrong, but in Legacy, it's actually unfavorable.
That's true. Turn 2, he fetches for Temple Garden for Kline, and he'll cast Kitchen Finks. So down to 15, back up to 17. So we pass to Kline.
Turn 1, Acceleration. Turn 2, Combo Piece.
And it's all creatures. I like that. Kline has trouble interacting.
So what kind of creatures do we have on turn 2? There's Leona and Arbiter. This could make things slightly awkward for Maine. No fetch lands for this deck, but Maine has plenty in his list.
Leon and Arbiter is the turn 2 play for Kline. So we'll go back to Maine. It is a copy of Anafenza Kintry Spirit. Now, if you wanted to try to say Chord for Viscera Seer, well, that wouldn't really work because of Leon and Arbiter.
Yeah, you'd have to get the 6 mana just to find Viscera Seer.
Ugh, horrible, too much.
Yeah, that's not a good rate for a 1/1.
I'll tell you right now, I've set him on a big scape shift kick in Modern. Leon and Arbiter, I have lost a lot of games to this card.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's miserable. There's a neat interaction the deck has. If you have Eldrazi Displacer in Lane and Arbiter, your opponent can just never sort of shuffle their library. Because if they pay 2 and you blink the Arbiter, it's a new Arbiter.
Yeah. Though Andy doesn't look too invested in his Arbiter.
No, he swings it and trades it away for the Anafenza, then plays an Eldrazi Displacer. No colorless mana yet for Kline, so this is just a 3/3. We go back the way of Maine. Maine not only interested in Anafenza either. I would think in this matchup that's a pretty good card. Lots of 1/1 counters and a creature mirror.
Yeah, it's
we could do worse.
One of your combo pieces, though it looks like Maine has a Malira, which is technically a backup Anafenza.
This is interesting. You see Maine could have played a lot of sorcery speed things, instead just passes the turn and holds up Court of Calling. Now, there's some concern that if I'm playing as a mono white deck, Court of Calling on end step is fine. I'm worried my opponent's going to do something like flash in an Aven Mind Sensor if I try to do this.
That would be disastrous. His plan here is to go Chord for that Viscera Seer, untap, cast Malira, but you're right. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. Path to Exile can break up your combo. The Aven Mind Sensor could just be disastrous.
Ghost Quarter is the play for Kline, and now he will play Aven Mind Sensor. And this is the problem. He did it main phase.
Yeah, Aven Mind Sensor, you'll remember, or maybe you're learning for the first time. This is a rather obscure card. It does have flash.
So this is a play where I think Andy's going to wish he had this one back. You see, he plays Mind Sensor. In response, Maine is going to go ahead and Chord for the Viscera Seer. This is going to be a win for Andrew Maine as a result. And a misstep for Andy Kline. Had he just passed the turn, Maine likely would have gone for the Court of Calling, and then Andy could have put in the Mind Sensor, and this would have gone the other way.
So Kline left up a Ghost Quarter. If he Ghost Quarters himself and finds a basic plains, he's technically on Path to Exile yet. So
he's not just dead.
Right, let's not call it before it's over, but that sequencing on the Mind Sensor, that did not line up very well.
And we will see. It doesn't really matter right now. He's going to go ahead and Ghost Quarter. It looks like one of Andrew Maine's lands, and now he is dead.
Right. We're officially off. The plan is that the Mind Scepter stops Maine from finding a basic land. But even still, birds plus the land gets him access to Malira.
And then, well, it's infinite life. And I don't, unlike the Tron matches we've been seeing, I don't believe Death and Taxes can beat infinite life.
No. Not to mention the ability to stack the deck every turn.
Right. And so he said if Andy Kline had a Path to Exile in his hand, and I believe he did, the correct play then was to Ghost Quarter himself, get a Plains, and then Path to Exile one of Andrew Maine's combo pieces.
Right.
Tough break here for Kline. Now, what would be the reasoning behind Maine phasing a Aven Mind Sensor? There are advantages here.
They're escaping me right now if there are advantages. Even if your opponent plays a fetch land on their following turn, you can cast the Mind Scepter in response to the cracking of the fetch land.
Yeah, land.
I'm just not coming up with anything.
Land Malira for Andrew Maine. So here is the combo. He can now sacrifice Kitchen Finks any number of times, gaining life in two increments of 2 as many times as he wants. Scry the deck as many times as he wants.
Another interesting, though not terribly relevant, side effect of this ability to pick up the deck and arrange it in a certain order is now he can put a basic land on top of his deck or something that's fetchable and then just crack his fetch land, find that.
Reshuffle the deck.
Right.
Yeah, that's neat.
And that's exactly what we see him do here.
Yeah, he wants to fetch for Temple Garden. Okay, I'll put Temple Garden on my top. Now I'm going to scry one a bunch more times. Usually Murderous Red Cap goes on top. The number given is 9 trillion.
It's kind of uninspired, but it's acceptable.
So I'll tell you, when I play, what I like to do when I gain life is gain modest amounts of life. like if I had this Death and Taxes deck, right? Like I said, I'll gain 170. Right, like.
I like the Arielax school of thought, the Googleplex.
Oh, just really big numbers.
Right, just obscenely impossible to process that large of a number.
It'd be like, you know, the 30th Mersan Prime or something like that. And then people be like, what's that? And you're like, something really big. It's math. It's big. You're not going to kill me from it. And there's the Path to Exile. Too little, too late, though, from Kline. The damage is done. The combo's been put together.
Right. Maine does still have to wrap up the game, but I find it hard to believe that that'll be difficult.
Yeah, it would. I suppose if Andy could, in theory, completely lock Maine out of the game, you know, control the board forever, then I believe Maine has fewer cards in deck and would deck first. But
so the foundation of the Death and Taxes archetype is playing all of these frustrating cards that's difficult for your opponent to play around, and that's reminiscent of prison strategies, but the difference is there's no actual way to lock your opponent out of playing Magic. There's nothing like Crucible of Worlds, so we can't just Ghost Quarter them every turn. And
so I can't just, Ghost Quarter them and then like put four Lane and Arbiters into play and 2 Aven Mind Sensors and Ghost Quarter you every turn.
Right.
And you know, a ghostly prison and some way that you can never do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just not there.
No, you're just trying to keep them off balance for long enough to kill them with creatures. And that seems like one of the difficult parts of the matchup from the Death and Taxes side is winning maybe hard for them. They can get some Sarah Avengers in play at some point.
Yeah, Vryn Wingmare does fly. That's not for nothing. Maine's thinking about what he wants to draw in the absence of this Viscera Seer.
Kline will pass. We have Eldrazi Displacer and Aven Mind Sensor for Kline. So Path is on Viscera Seer, so the ability to scry off the table temporarily for Maine. It's likely to only be temporary. Andrew's going to go to attacks, then it'll be a displacer on the Kitchen Finks. Maine will cast Collected Company, and look, there's a Viscera Seer on top of the deck. How lucky.
Yeah.
Spellskite plus Viscera Seer are the gets off the Collected Company. Now the Spellskite, hey, when you have infinite life, Spellskite's pretty good, right?
Yeah, we can redirect all of the things to Spellskite until one of them actually gets it off the battlefield. And now we have the Seer back online, so we can go back to stacking our deck, draw anything we want on any turn. Now we're up to 4 mana, so on the following draw, I assume we'll be finding that Murderous Redcap so we can actually close things out.
So when you reassemble the combo, do you gain another 1,000 life just to show them?
Well, you can't go around scrying without gaining life.
It's not a Maine.
So yes.
In these situations, it's actually legal to agree with your opponent. You know, if you can we agree to suspend counting life points for right now and agree that I'm at an arbitrarily large number? That's actually a shortcut that is allowable.
Okay.
I've had matches where just, you know, the judge, if both players consent to this, the judge allows it as a table judge will allow that as a shortcut.
I like it. I think that's a good rule.
It's not the no, you have to track it immediately. Guys, it's like 5 million. It's fine. It's fine. You don't have to be like 5,000,002, 5,000,004. That's, no one wants to make people do that. And now the red cap is in play, and the infinite life combo becomes an infinite damage combo. And game 1 over to Andrew Maine. Back to just 999 life.
Yep, so Maine had the turn 1 birds, was able to combo off very quickly, and that's exactly what he needs to do in this matchup. Kline just didn't really have the things that he needed to stop that from happening. Some awkward sequencing with the Aven Mind Sensor, and that was the game.
We're going to go ahead and go to the sideboards for the two players. We'll start with Andy Kline. He's the 8-0 Death and Taxes player. He has lots of different assortment of white cards that can be inconvenient for the opponent. We'll go ahead and run through some of them, though. Sword of Feast and Famine to give us creature protection from green and black. A lot of those on Andrew's side. Pithing Needle, 3 Pithing Needles, 2 Stony Silence, a Kataki War's Wage, a Hallowed Moonlight, 2 Rest in Peace, a Grafdigger's Cage, 3 Core Firewalker, and a Wilt Leaf Liege.
Hallowed Moonlight's one we're used to seeing in Standard, but we're playing against a deck that has Court of Calling and Collected Company. I think that one's for sure coming in. I like Rest in Peace as well. It turns off those persist creatures. When they hit the bin, they'll just be exiled permanently, so they don't just get to come back from the graveyard. And then the last thing we can look at is also bringing in that Sword of Feast and Famine, just so we have a way to quickly close out the game when we have them locked out.
Yeah, I was saying that it might be difficult for them to win the game here, and I could definitely see Sword of Feast and Famine fixing that problem. Now, on Andrew Maine's side of the board, we have a lot of removal and then some different types of threats. So 3 Abrupt Decays, 2 Paths to Exiles. That's where we go for removal. Then we have a Thoughtseize, 2 Sin Collectors, 2 Voice of Resurgence, a Scavenging Ooze, another Archangel Avacyn, an Orzhov Pontiff, a Phyrexian Revoker, and a Fulminator Mage.
I like Abrupt Decay and Path to Exile. All of the problematic permanents, save for Aether Vial and Kline side of the table, are going to be creatures, so just bring in that creature removal, keep those Leonin Arbiters off the board, all the stuff like that. And then I also like bringing in the Phyrexian Revoker as another answer to the Aether Vial.
Okay. Yeah, no, Andy Kline, not only is he 14 years old right now. That is quite the day one for him.
When I was 14 years old, my Magic decks were not capable of going 8-0 in an open field.
Do you remember any of them? When you were 14, what were your Magic decks?
So what year are we in when I'm 14? That's 12 years ago. That puts us in 2004. What set is that? That's Mirrodin 1?
That sounds right.
So in Mirrodin 1, I was really into Krark Clan Ironworks, if it was that far along. Played a lot of Ironworks. That's the one that immediately comes to mind. I liked Thoughtcasts. I liked Krark Clan Ironworks.
So my deck was a bunch of Llanowar Elves and then Fireballs. And I had like 4 Fireballs and 4 Disintegrates. And just like, there was a bunch of Llanowar Elves, and there was like another elf that like I sacked it to untap all the forests. It was just every single card was mana or Fireball. It was really creative. You'll never guess how it won games.
That's just good deck building.
Yeah. Usually it took about 2 or 3 Fireballs to win the game. All right. So if you're watching here on the SCG Tour, this is the beginning of Season 2. It's our first Modern Open here in Milwaukee. Now, if you're trying to come out and play, want to compete, make a run at the Season 2 title, or just kind of come out and test your deck against some of the things you're seeing on stream today, we have our schedule coming up here. We'll be making a trip through the Midwest, so we go to Indianapolis in 2 weeks for another Modern Open. After that, we'll go to the southern part of the country for some standard events in Atlanta and Orlando in June, as we finish the month over in Dallas for another Modern tournament. Then we'll finish the summer and the Season 2 of the tour up on the East Coast. So start with the One Legacy Open of the summer. Of course, that's always a popular event. It's in Worcester, Massachusetts, so make your way out there to compete with some of the oldest and most storied Magic decks until we finish things up in July with the Columbus Open Weekend standard event, the Baltimore Open at the end of July, and then in August we have our regional championships, the Syracuse Modern Open, and then the second finals, the New Jersey Invitational Weekend, August 19th through 21st. That's both standard and modern. Qualify for that, of course, by finishing in the top 8 of any Open or finding an IQ event near you and winning that to get an invitation. Lots
of ways to play, lots of different great formats to explore, lots of fun locations.
Yeah, and one of the things which is new, not only do you get to play in these exciting tournaments, we do have playmats to give away, and we have 3 different playmats depending on if you're playing a standard, a modern, or a legacy event. So we figure we'll give you an art that kind of fits your style. So for standard, the playmat we'll be giving away is Sigarda Heron's Grace. This is the new mythic rare angel out of Shadows over Innistrad. Of the 3 angels, she's the green one, the green-white one. We're still waiting to see just what happened to the other ones, Bruna and, oh man, Gisela.
And the rest.
And the red. But we started printing in Shadows over Innistrad. You can get that on a playmat. If it's a modern event or a modern classic, we'll be giving away Ghost Quarter. This is the land we've seen actually a lot of Ghost Quarters today. It features prominently in Andy Kline's Death and Taxes deck, playing the full playset.
Oh yeah.
And then for Legacy, well, hey, still Andy Kline's deck. It's Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. This is the 2/1 legendary creature that makes spells cost more.
The Ghost Quarters don't quite translate to Legacy, but similar card in Wasteland in that deck.
Yeah, they're like one time your opponent gets a land, the other time they don't.
So Wasteland is a fixed strip mine. They didn't quite do what they intended. They ended up with a still pretty messed up Magic card. Ghost Quarter,
yeah,
actually a pretty good fixed Wasteland.
It's good fix. I still feel like Ghost Quarter shouldn't be able to hit basics.
Okay, that's a reasonable gripe.
Land destruction for basic lands is just that's priced for tournament play is just pretty rude. Underway, game number 2, Kline versus Maine. This is for 9-0. Andy Kline on the play. We'll start out with Aether Vial. And for Andrew Maine, it'll be a Horizon Canopy into Noble Hierarch. Now, if you were starting Magic, I like this, seeing younger player 14, get him into the habit of putting a die on the deck. I think a lot of the older Magic players, it's like, can't teach old dog new tricks, too proud to use a die. It's just free value.
I'm too proud to use a die.
You don't put one for your Delvers when you play a Delver Series, you don't put a die on your deck?
No, I just flip it over.
No, I do it. It's good pedagogy.
I flip the top card of my deck because I know it's going to flip, and then I show them the 3/2. Turn
2 play here from Andy Kline. And now a lot of creatures from Maine. It is a Birds of Paradise, a Anafenza Kindred Spirit. The bird will bolster to a 1/2. The creature was land and Arbiter for Kline, so that's the 2/2 for 2 that prevents shuffling.
Yep.
But all things aside, the die on top of the deck, it is a free way to. It's a good, I would say. This is something for free you can do. It'll improve your play. It's hard to get in the habit of it.
Yeah, for the effort that I put in, if I can remember the die, I can remember the trigger anyway. But this is a tool that some players use to great effect.
At the end of the rounds of splits, registration will reopen.
Arbiter will swing in.
8 a.m.
And Eldrazi Displacer is the next play for Kline. So despite playing that Aether Vial, he's deciding he's just going to cast all his creatures using his lands.
Yeah, well, Vial's still hanging out. We haven't activated that just yet. Though in this deck, typically you want to be pretty proactive with that.
You should be using your Wastelands and Rishadan ports while your Vial ticks up. I think that's how it works.
Yeah, but we don't quite have those in Modern. And Ghost Quarter is not very exciting when these are... Well, we have the Arbiter. So if we start drawing Ghost Quarters, those could potentially be very good.
He has Mutavaults in the deck too. Well, Mutavault singular. It's in play.
Andy drew it.
It's on the battlefield, yeah. Might even turn into a 2/2.
You'd probably rather have a Ghost Quarter, but Mutavault is a very powerful card.
So you go over to Maine. His turn 3, he has Birds of Paradise, Anafenza, Kintry Spirit, and Noble Hierarch. He will go ahead and attack with the Kintry Spirit. As a 3-3, it could trade with the Eldrazi Displacer if Kline wants it to. He has other plans. He'll go ahead and Vial in Thalia. Thalia will block. Now, maybe a misstep here from Kline. It's a 3-3 Anafenza. And a misstep from Andy Kline. He will lose the 2-1. Voice of Resurgence, the follow-up play for Maine. A bolster onto Noble Hierarch. Noble Hierarch will tap. He'll make Birds of Paradise. Bolsters onto Birds of Paradise.
Yeah, so Maine not only doesn't have a fetch land to be impacted by that Arbiter, but just a bunch of creatures that tap for mana to produce.
And this is interesting. When you've been watching Obs and Company face off against the likes of decks like Tron, where we always see, oh, it's this infinite life combo deck, right? What you forget about, and what we really actually haven't seen today, is when it's just plays a bunch of creatures, puts 1/1 counters on them, and turns sideways.
Yeah.
This might be our first fair game we've seen out of Obs and Company.
We've seen the deck win in combat, but it's always been in games where they were fighting the combo and then eventually settled on it. But this game, we're just pedal to the metal. Let's play on the battlefield. I can attack you. Yeah.
So back to Kline. A second land in Arbiter. There will be no searching decks this game. No, sir.
Now we need 8 mana to find Viscera Seer with Court of Calling.
Yeah. Yep. And he will Ghost Quarter away Andrew Maine's Horizon Canopy. Yep. And cannot search his deck to go find a basic. So we go back to Maine. Temple Garden, the draw. Now, interestingly, I believe that flip card you see in Maine's hand is one of the copies of Archangel Avacyn.
Okay, and we're home on that one. We have a bunch of birds.
We can cast it, yeah. See some attacks out of Maine. Just the Birds of Paradise. A 1/1 will swing in.
Yeah, other creatures are just looking at maybe getting an Exalted Trigger and trading with the Displacer.
Sure. He's left up 5 mana. And if you're noticing on Kline's side, are you suspicious that Andrew Maine attacked with 1 birds and not both?
Most definitely.
Yeah, that's peculiar, isn't it?
Especially with 5 mana instead of 4 for Collected Company. This is multiple red flags.
Danger, don't attack into this. An Angel's coming, and then Andrew does not cast it. Pretty happy with the board as is. And now he should be really happy with it as is. Gavany Township, the draw. He'll go to attacks. Kline will go ahead and use Eldrazi Displacer to remove the Birds of Paradise and put it back into play tapped. All right, 1/1 counter falls off. Then comes back into play and bolsters again, so.
Yep. A wash.
Yep. And then he says, oh, the counter falls off. Andrew says, yeah, that's right. It's a new one.
Just got it.
And he'll attack with the other Bird of Paradise then. Tectonic Edge will be pointed at Gavany Township. Before that happens, Andrew will use the Township, and here goes 1/1 counters on all the creatures.
Yep. Still don't really need to cast that Avacyn.
It's looking just fine right now. Eldrazi Displacer is being really impressive here on Kline's side. Now, he just doesn't seem to have enough mana. On top of that, he still has not used this Aether Vial. He had on turn 1, and he hasn't used it yet. I suppose he put the Thalia into play with it. That doesn't really feel like it counts.
No. He should just play that on turn 2 anyway.
I feel like from the Death and Tax player, we're saying these creatures are supposed to be more disruptive than this.
Yeah, this is not a great showing for the deck, especially Displacer versus Anafenza. When the creature just blinks back in and gets to bolster. That's an unfortunate interaction for the Displacer.
So Maine will go to attacks. Andy will displace the Bird of Paradise. Now Maine has to decide what he wants to swing with. Now that his ground guys are 3/3s, that Avacyn in hand looks pretty tempting. He'll swing just Birds of Paradise, though. 2 damage. Kline goes to 14. And here is Kitchen Finks for Maine. It just continues to add to the board. Bolsters onto a Birds of Paradise again. Oh, you're right. So, Birds of Paradise also getting exalted, not to forget. Andy will end step Vile-in Aven Mind Sensor. That's a creature that could, in theory, block a Bird of Paradise someday.
But it will be a chump block at this point.
Yeah.
Those birds have been eating their Wheaties.
Birds don't eat Wheaties.
These birds do. That's their secret to success.
If they're athletes, I saw athletes eat Wheaties.
They've been running across the battlefield.
What do Birds of Paradise eat? Normal birds eat worms, man. I don't know. What a bird... These ones.
When the Ravnica,
I don't know if it's breakfast cereals.
When the Ravnica Birds of Paradise was first spoiled, that new art with all the fancy colors.
The ones he's using.
Yeah. My friend Jens referred to it as the Go-Gurt Birds of Paradise.
That's what they're eating.
Because it looks like Trix yogurt or one of those like horrible all-sugar yogurts.
You mean delicious.
Well, yeah, they're fantastic.
Swing of 2 Birds of Paradise from Kline. This is that Kline puts him to 9. A Spellskite into play. This is just really a weird game. Maine feels ahead, but it's not how you expected him to win, right? Just here's another Kitchen Finks. More bolstering. He now has 3/2/3 Birds of Paradise, and that's really how he's deciding to win.
Yeah, there's just nothing terribly exciting happening. It's just, here's a creature. I got a township activation. Here's some bolsters.
How'd you lose, man? I got beaten down by some Birds of Paradise. Oh, did he like put 4/1/1 counters on him? Nah, they're mostly 2/3s, some 1/2s. It took a while.
Or what they actually said, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah. I don't know. Abzan Company's a bad matchup, and then you just leave it at that.
Yeah. Let's go get dinner, guys.
8-1. What a great record. I'm super happy. As he should be. He'll go ahead and displace one of the Birds of Paradise. Comes back into play, bolsters again. What a weird game.
Andy's just lining things up. If you block everything, do I have lethal? What do your blocks even accomplish?
I think we're going to see the Legendary Angel now. So in response to the displacement, he's going to make some mana.
Or not.
Well, at least with the bird. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And here she is, Archangel Avacyn, protecting her flock of birds. And oofs. They're all indestructible till end of turn. That's the important part, though. You better not kill one of them. Avacyn does not like that.
No.
Here's an attack.
Though you'll find it difficult if you even try to kill one, at least for this turn.
I mean, Andy has to not let this Avacyn ever flip. That would win the game. His board's rather weak to it, and his board's weak to this attack. So without enough blocks, Andy Kline will lose, and it is Andrew Maine, the top 8 invitational competitor, the perfect 9-0 to finish day 1. And for the 14-year-old here, Andy Kline, an 8-1 performance with Death and Taxes. What a tournament.
Yeah, when I was approximately that age, the best I ever did was I lost in the semifinals of one of those junior Super Series tournaments.
Oh, okay.
And that was like cool for me at the time, but it was nothing compared to going 8-1 in day 1 of an Open, especially with the 8 wins at the front end. Starting out 8-0.
That's the hardest way to go 8-1.
Yeah.